Okay, I guess we're set. We do
Yep,
have a
you're all
quorum.
set.
Yes, nice. So I will open the meeting of the Conservation Commission on January 11th in accordance with the state and municipal wetlands regulations. We're going to have a slight adjustment of the agenda so that folks that dealing with 3 Young Road have some other commitments soon. So we're going to do a quick switch to deal with the continuation of the notice of intent for 3 Young Road up front here. This is includes the filling of an isolated wetland and construction of a commercial building in the buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands. Hi, Chris.
How you doing?
Good. I think, you know, as I've stated to Chris via emails over the past couple of weeks, you know, we've waited a long time for the planning board to move ahead and process the permits that they are responsible for, site plan review, low impact development, and scenic roads, and presumably they're on the upcoming agendas. I know the site plan review was on the agenda, but it didn't necessarily speak to the other 2 permits. But be that as it may, I think at this point in time, you know, it's been long enough. We can proceed to hopefully close the public hearing and issue the order contingent upon the receipt of all these other permits.
That would be great.
All right, I do have, however, I see a representative of Sullivan Engineering here. Awesome. I guess, you know, it must be frustrating about my interest in the Caltech systems seem to never cease. In looking at the operation and maintenance manuals that I did discover on the Caltech site, they reference a couple of different treatment, TSS treatment options. One is not a catch basin, but a manhole catch basin before the entry into the system. And they also mention or reference what they call a separation row, which is, I guess, a dedicated set of chambers where the first flush is introduced and all the sediments end up there, and there's inspection ports to use this high level nozzle to spray out the sediment into a sump, and then the sediments within the sump are to be vacuumed out. I don't see any of that in the proposed plan.
Right.
Can you?
I can address that.
Okay, yeah, please.
Yep. So you would be right if you would want some sort of pre-treatment if we were capturing any runoff from pavement areas or impervious surfaces on the site. We're collecting just the roof runoff from the proposed building. So DEP treats stormwater off a roof, if it's not a steel roof, if it's an asphalt shingled roof, is clean, and you don't need any sort of pre-treatment. In DEP assigns an 80% TSS removal rate when it's off a roof system. So in this case, when you put in the Caltech units, there is no sort of pre-treatment. You have the roof runoff, it's hard piped out to the Caltech infiltration field with the stone underlying the system is bedding, and it's just you get your 80% TSS removal rate, and you meet the stormwater standards that way.
Okay, so you don't anticipate ever having to clean this?
No. And I do show an inspection port for the system, just so as part of the operation maintenance plan, you can make sure, you still want to make sure water is exiting the system and things like that. So you do have that inspection port for your O&M plan, but I do not see any reason this should stay working fine. The reason they fail is when you get a lot of sediment or sediment carryover into the system. I don't see that happening in this case where it's clean runoff from a roof.
And the one inspection port on the initial set of chambers, initial row of chambers is deemed sufficient?
It's sufficient.
Okay. And any kind of excess runoff is funneled to that like emergency discharge point?
Yep. So it's a landscape. It's called a pop-up emitter. And it's, you want it in a grassed area, which it will be in. So in a large storm event, you get up to the 100-year storm or over.
Yeah.
So the system doesn't surcharge, as it can pop up, water can move out through the grass, and and then it just goes overland flow. But I put that in all my systems as an emergency overflow from the system. It works well.
Okay. Thanks, because I mean, it, again, and I assume that may be the case, given that we were dealing with roof runoff only, but wanted to be sure.
Yep, thank you.
Could I ask just a quick follow-up question?
Yes.
Since roof runoff is fairly clean, but for the first few years, the asphalt shingles do drop a lot of the little, I don't know if there's a term for them, the little pellets, right? I don't know if you ever, I monitor it on my own house. I see it does collect some, but I assume your system is a lot bigger than that, right? But you have accounted for at least some of that debris that's going to be coming off the shingles as they degrade, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't get any of that, but the way and I got called out on this once when on another project, is the only time it comes up is it's not clean if it's a steel roof, and we're not having a steel roof. They look at steel roofs as not clean. In this case, they consider it clean. So this is the standard practice in the industry.
Because I had a mudroom done with, I know it was probably 12 feet by 12 feet of shingles, and there was a few cups of debris that just comes off over a couple of years of just those little particles, right? That just the stuff that coats the surface. So, I mean, so there is something that's going to get caught somewhere, but I'm assuming the system is bigger than that would be a problem for.
Yeah, it would be so minor. This system's completely open. They're all open chambers. So if there was a little carryover or something, it's not going to clog the system. There's 4-inch drain pipes going out to the field. I see that being minimal.
Okay.
All right, then. Any other questions at this point? Again, I've drafted an order of conditions. I sent that to Chris. Presumably that's been distributed. Any comments from anybody in that regard? No? Okay. All right, then. With that, I'm going to make a motion then to close the public hearing for 3 Young Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Paconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, aye.
Andrew Henderson, aye.
All right, now I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions approving the plan per proposed project per plan and discussion.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. Did we have a second on that?
No, second.
No.
Second.
All right, we do now. All right, then Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Paconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, aye.
Andrew Henderson, aye.
All right, I'll try to issue the order within the next couple of days. Chris, I'll send it to you for distribution, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
And again, thank you for your patience. It's kind of been a long run, but may your next public meeting later tonight be equally fruitful.
I hope so. My next one's a challenge. It's gonna be a bit tough one, but we appreciate the time from the board, and we appreciate your patience getting us here. Thank you. And thank you for moving the agenda around to accommodate our schedules tonight. Casey,
Not a problem.
appreciate it.
Understood. All right, have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. First or next on the agenda, as the case may be, There's a notice of intent for 48 Winding Cove Road. The applicants are filing for the installation of a septic system within the buffer zone of Sunset Lake. Rich sent us all, I believe, the plans, et cetera, et cetera. I do not see Patrick Wood not with us at the moment. Pat is with High Country Civil Engineering, who prepared the septic plans and notice of intent. Well, we can deal with some other things while we potentially await his presence. We also have on the agenda the issuance of certificates of compliance for 14 Holt Road and 9 South School Street, which per Rich's commentaries are stabilized, and there's no reason why the certificate shouldn't be issued as requested. Any other? No, okay. Then I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 14 Holt Road.
Second,
All in favor, Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Spiconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, aye.
Andrew Henderson, I.
All right, and I will now make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 9 South School Street.
Second,
All in favor, Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Spiconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, aye.
Andrew Henderson, I.
Awesome. All right then. Just to raise this, I am going to open at this point, open the public hearing for 48 Winding Cove Road. And if we have to continue, we will. But it seems pretty straightforward. It's a septic system within the buffer of Sunset Lake. It's going to be a pumped system. And my only comment is that while there are soil erosion sediment controls around the septic system, there's no such controls around the proposed septic tank and pump chamber. So, that would be an order of conditions. I don't know if the rest of you had a chance to look at this, but, again, it's something that needs to be, and I don't really know if we need to wait. And I'm sure what Patrick might add to the commentary here, but that was my only other comment. Anything from anybody else?
And nothing jumped out at me.
No, not for me either. I mean, unfortunately, they're putting the septic system in a totally forested area, but I guess you got to do what you got to do.
I didn't think the neighbors would approve of them putting it in their side.
No. I mean, fortunately, they have the room to do it. So, all right. In that case, again, it seems like every other septic system thing that we've looked at. So other than requiring the soil erosion control to be extended around the septic tank, I see no reason why not to close the public hearing. So with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for 48 Winding Cove Road.
Second,
All in favor? Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Spiconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, I.
Andrew Henderson, aye.
All right, then I'll make a motion to issue a order of conditions per plan and discussion with the inclusion of soil erosion and sediment controls around the proposed septic tank pump chamber.
Second,
All in favor? Marshall Dennis, aye.
Chris Spiconi, aye.
Ann O'Connor, I.
Andrew Henderson, aye.
All right, consider it done. I don't think there was anything else specifically on the agenda, other than the commentary that I've sent to you folks by email, and Ann's response there too, which is obviously a point well taken. My intent was simply to advise the commission about what was going on relative to the open space residential development on Winchendon Road, and the fact that the applicant is proposing to donate the 4.686 acres of open space to the commission. I haven't seen it, I haven't been there. I've gathered what information I could from online sources. I obviously have a lot of questions, which I relayed. Again, it was only intended to stimulate your thought processes and think about, what the commission might want to do. Nothing says we have to accept it, but nonetheless, the planning board process is going to be, played out for quite some time. They got to do a peer review. So all of that selection, awarding contracts, blah, blah, will last for some time. But, so I don't anticipate us, obviously doing anything one way or the other for some time, until we get closer to the point of actually, discussing this with the planning board, and with the open space committee, as which I understand this issue is going to be on the agenda for January 26th, which is the day after the commission's next meeting. However, I do want to don't let the opportunity go by without noting Ann's commentary about the use of email to appear to be deliberating, matters which should be deliberated in public. So I think she's right. We have to be very careful. I know there's some information that's been published about, do's and don'ts about that whole matter. And I think maybe we just need to be not only more aware, but careful about not.
Yeah, I only said something because when I used to work for the paper, it really became an issue in some towns, especially with conservation commissions. So I think we're better to play it safe.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And as soon as I saw your note, I mean, I looked back at my email and said, well, I probably should have said things a lot differently. Because I asked for your thoughts on the matter. What I really should have said, just think about it, instead of, don't tell me now, just think about it. Because it was just a way of trying to, avoid going through the process and explain all this during a meeting. But nonetheless, it really is something that we need to be aware of. And again, I've got an article someplace, whether it was from the Association of Mass Wetland Sciences or something else, that addresses this very issue. And if I can put my hands on it, I'll send it out to everyone so we can be sure that we don't get called on it. I mean, because it can, absolutely negate anything that we might do.
Marshall, can you remind me, and maybe even for the minutes, what were so the idea is it would be a property transferred to the Conservation Commission, but it would be under a conservation restriction So somebody's gonna have to monitor it every year and write a report on it every year.
Well,
Does that fall on us, or since we would be the property owner, it can't fall on us, so who's gonna
Correct.
do that? I guess that's my,
well, it's whoever holds my understanding is whoever holds the CR. Gary, is that right?
Unmute. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a design for both, what was it, Lakeside there? It used to be Hoyt's Campground or Holt's
Oh, yeah.
Campground.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and Nyman Farm. We actually had a deal with the developer back then where this is how it was supposed to work. It would be, the Conservation Commission would say, take the fee ownership of the land, and the land trust would take the conservation restriction. Okay, but there needs to come with that enough funding to be able to put into an endowment to assure monitoring of the property. And that's
Well-
where it died. We had that recession that hit, the housing crisis. And the developers just went to the planning board and begged poverty, and they gave in on it. So that should not happen again, you know? And you can't, I mean, I guess you could take fee ownership of it, but I believe that in the bylaw or in the regs, it's supposed to actually be a conservation restriction on it too.
That's
So-
true.
Okay, but either one, the one that's holding the conservation restriction does need to get stewardship funding. Okay, and you do, if you're holding a conservation restriction, you should probably be out there monitoring it. I know the commission doesn't typically do that, except in the case of the Toma property.
Right.
I think that's the only one that you do monitor every year, and Chris does that one. So-
Yeah. Well-
one thing is a naive question, but why is funding needed for the monitor? All of the monitoring is done by volunteers, so where?
If you can find volunteers. And what
Yeah, okay.
happens if there's a violation? You
Okay,
need to have some money in the bank to be able to hire a lawyer.
okay.
Okay, that's probably the biggest reason for that. I mean, typically we can find the volunteers, but not that easy, is it, Cease?
Yeah, they will come, and there will come a day when we
Okay.
can't find volunteers, and then.
I mean, how many years have you been taking care of Toma property? You got anybody else going out there with you besides Cease? Nope.
No.
So volunteers are not that easy to come by.
Right.
And then having funds there, it was a way to build up a fund for potential use on other properties. You put it in the bank because you're always saying you don't have money for stewardship. You don't have the resources, but if you could hire someone to do that, the only way you're going to get that is from the developer.
Okay.
If they really want it to happen, they will fund the support of the project in the long term.
So how much money are we talking about that's needed for a small plot like that?
5, 7?
I know most land trusts, their number is around between 5 and 6. With a developer,
5 and 6, what?
when I'm talking about 5 or 6, I'm talking about just working with a landowner that owns a big piece of property. He wants to protect a portion of it. It's not part of a development. Okay, this is part of a development. So my thought is they need to be hit a little hard. They're making money on this.
I'm making money.
Okay, so, I mean, with the Nyman Farm and Lakeside there, Lakeshore, whatever it is, we had a $12,000 price tag on that. And how we figured that out was we put away about $4,000 for just legal costs. And the rest of it was, if you put the rest of it, say $8,000 into a bank account, okay, and that's not true anymore because nobody gets interest. But with the interest that you made on that, you could afford maybe $50 a year to hire somebody to go out and monitor the property. So that's how we work that out. Because sometimes if you don't have volunteers, you're responsible to make sure that conservation restriction is what it's supposed to be. Now, land trusts, we're kind of required to do that now. That's a requirement. Okay. The state is actually starting to do it. Okay. They never used to, but they are now. Okay. With some funding like Forest Legacy, which is the case with the Toma property, that is required as part of the conservation restriction. Okay, and at some point in the future, I think it probably should be required for all conservation restrictions. I know the trust does it. That's one of the reasons we weren't part of that deal down the road on Bush Hill. Because they didn't, the landowners didn't want to put that money into us. So the
So-
commission took the fee ownership of it and, you know, it's what it is.
So besides the Toma property and Bush Hill, are those the only two?
The Bush Hill, you own the property. You're the fee
Yeah.
owner of the property. So you're not required to monitor it per se. If a monitor finds a problem out there like trash or something, you're kind of responsible to clean it up. Okay.
Well, what- then
Money.
why would this be any different? If
I
we
believe
owned it?
because of the regulations of the open space residential,
Oh,
there has to be a conservation restriction on it. I believe. I mean, I
Okay.
need to dig back into it. I was part of it when the whole thing was drafted, but it's
Yeah.
been a long time.
yeah,
Or a
okay.
homeowners association, but they're not as, it's not as easy. The oversight is not as strict with a homeowners association as it is with a government agency or a land trust or the municipality.
Well,
Right. I thought that that there had to be two people or two entities involved. One who owned the land and the other who was responsible for the conservation restriction. They had to be
Correct.
separate.
Yep.
Separate.
Yep, that's what I believe is the truth, yeah.
It
So you
can't
need
be
to
one and
find
the
another
same.
entity. Okay.
No,
it could
because
be
if you
that the-
owned the land and you decided you were going to sneak in there and, I don't know, build a mansion and you owned the conservation restriction, nobody would know.
Well,
Well, that's why one of them should be someone like the state or a land trust, and then the next best would be the municipality.
Yeah.
You don't want to give it to the fox because, that's.
You know
never
what
a good
happened to
idea
the,
have
you
them
know what
working
happened to
on
the
that.
hen house, yep.
Right,
Yeah.
so, multiple agents, two agencies, each have a separate role.
All right, so
But either
if the
way, money has to go with it.
if
I
the
believe with,
Conservation Commission accepted it,
Yeah.
then who
If you
holds the
accept it-
CR?
A land trust,
a land trust would have to be the ones that would hold it. The state's not going to take it because it's too small a piece.
I know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you'd have to get a land trust to take on that responsibility. The other option is if they have a homeowners association, which is what I think you did over on Lakeside, right? Lakeshore, whatever that is over on
Yeah.
Sherbert Road. Okay, I think it's the landowner association that actually owns the land and the conservation restrictions held by the town. But you don't go out and monitor that, right?
and I'm not so
Yeah.
sure that one of those isn't up for sale. I did some research. I'll go back for my presentation on Wednesday. And I think that when I look on the GIS mapping site, it has two different parcels now. Each have a designation of conservation. One is separated off, which I don't recall it being separated. But
Yeah,
for some
yeah,
reason,
well-
I seem to think that I got an indication that it was for sale.
No, the house court, which is, I think what you're calling Lakeshore,
Yeah.
is totally screwed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I've tried many times to get the developer, to whom we've never issued a certificate of compliance and will not, which is what is preventing, in part anyway, the homeowners association from accepting all the land. But there's a parcel down on the lake, minuscule, to be used for, boating, swimming, whatever. And then there's the parcel behind the development, which is, 15 acres or something like that. And, the way the deed's written, it's, I guess, debatable whether or not, it's open to the public or just for the residents or blah, 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 blah. So, and I've been trying to get clarification for quite some time and just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But
That one was supposed to have $9,000. I don't know that it was ever paid. The town was supposed to
No.
get $9,000 for that.
before my time. I
It
don't
never
know.
happened, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It never happened. Like I said, I mean, it was the same reason it didn't become over 55. I mean,
Right.
They cried poverty and
Yeah.
the planning board just let them off the hook.
All right. Well,
Another thing too is just the open for passive recreation. That needs to
Right.
be in them. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
there needs to be a way for people to get in on that property.
well, I was thinking that, you know, I kind of sketched on my own little plan there, you know, like a 50-foot driveway, just so it's out of visibility from the road, and then like a parking area for 4 or 5 cars.
Yep.
And then, you know, whomever, if so desired, could do a little circular trail system up there or
Yep.
something.
And they need to do a boundary marking for you. And there's a lot of things that need to go into it.
Yeah.
We'll try to stay kind of involved with this, but.
Yeah,
There's a lot, the abutting lot behind it has a very narrow access to it that goes over to the Quarry Hill Road.
Yeah.
Or Lazure Road.
yeah, Lashua, yeah.
Now, if that could be acquired as well, there could be a nice little trail that goes from Lazure Road down to Route 12.
People could hike right up to Meeting House Hill.
That'd be nice.
So I'm not sure if the current owners are interested at all, but if the developer could work some sort of a deal or if he could get a right of way, I don't think they can develop it the way it is.
Doesn't have enough frontage.
Doesn't really have frontage.
Yeah, I know the parcel you're talking about is very narrow.
But then it opens up when it gets to that lot.
Right, but right now, there's no direct connection between the proposed open space lot and anything else. So it would have to be something that we've worked on over the course of time.
Yeah.
All right.
One other thought, you mentioned parking at the, off of Route 12. If we wanted to save a little money, you could also park on the south side, across Route 12 on New Cemetery Road. There's actually a lot of parking right there.
Right.
It's a dead end. No traffic to worry about.
Give a crosswalk.
And then
At
put a
some point,
crosswalk
the
in.
neighborhood's really going to build up, and that little island, that little green spot, could function as a nice little community park
Mhm.
once it starts infilling with new houses.
Which it
Yeah,
will.
because there's already, as I mentioned in an email, there's already a nice little trail in the Cushing property over there. Maybe Cushing doesn't want more people walking there. I don't know, but
Just
that would
keep
be a
in
nice
mind,
little park network.
just keep in mind that Old Nims Road is really an easement. It's on Cushing property. It's not
Okay.
owned by the town.
But
But
how
they must
wide
have
is their
access-
easement?
But you have to allow access to get to the graveyard. So, okay, so they may not want people parking there. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at, because they use that access for a parcel. If you keep going straight instead of turning to the
Yeah.
cemetery, if you
Yeah.
keep going straight, never been down there. I don't know what they do down there, but
It's a
nonetheless.
couple of houses. It's just a couple residences. I think Cushing staff live there.
So, it's, it could be like parking on Old Pierce Road, They don't, it's not encouraged.
But I see that spot as more just like people who are already living in the area.
Yeah.
Will like go take their dogs. It's not
Yep.
going to be a destination like,
No.
Wapak is.
It's just something for the community. So,
No, it's not going to be a destination. You're right.
so according to the developer, there's a nice vantage overlooking like the clock tower and the steeple of the church. And, it's just a nice little vantage point. So.
Yeah.
Could be a bench up there someday or something like that. Who
Well,
knows?
there you go. Again, there's nothing that says that any municipal board has to accept it. We could just hold a CR.
Yep.
And that, as long as it was written the right way, would allow somebody to make a trail system or an overlook or whatever, benches.
So could the homeowners association continue to own the land and we hold the CR?
If they create a
They
homeowners
could.
association,
They
yeah.
could, but it's not a very
it doesn't work out very well.
It's too susceptible to abuse.
Well, I have a
People
feeling that,
forget and-
that the reason, it's written the way the Bray Avenue one wasn't so critical, but the way it's written, if you transfer the Bray Avenue CR to this property, it's like it preserves the land, the CR land, so it doesn't disturb the residences. In other words, if they keep it as is, nothing goes on back there. There's no trails, there's no disturbance of the residents, which is probably why they want to do it as such. Whereas, if they liberalize the CR a bit, who knows what's going to be in the backyards of of these people. Anyway, that's
Yeah, the critical part is get your money up front.
Yeah.
Before you approve anything.
Yeah.
Because our experience is they won't pay.
right. Okay, well,
And we'll do more research because there's some time as to what would be a recommended amount of money, and they really need to do more than just, like you said, dump off their excess land. And the land trust's gotten a couple of pieces like that, but they were very, one was Cheshire Pond, so that was a good leftover.
Yeah,
The other one was the Link, and then the other one was the Broadhurst Point. So they had value, and intrinsic value. But this land that's left over, just, they're trying to save money and make it look
Of
good.
course he is. Yeah. Well, he's in business. He's a businessman.
So. And it's fine. I mean, it's not so much the building of the houses, but we're always suspect that someone's just, trying to get their permits, trying to make it as cheap as possible and make themselves look the heroes when they're done.
Yeah.
And
This is not an old landowner that really loves his land and wants to see it taken care of.
understood.
It's the situation you're in. So,
And did I see correctly that there will be 5 houses going in, but without the open space plan, it would be only 4 houses, bigger lots, right? But,
I didn't know.
No,
I thought I had read somewhere that without.
Janet, I don't know where that came from.
Oh, okay, so it's not like they're not gaining an extra house. All right, that's.
No, and there will be a homeowners association because someone's got to take care of the roads, the driveways, and the detention basin.
And aren't they supposed to calculate out how many houses they could put there?
I
They
don't,
didn't follow that plan.
no,
And
they
I
didn't.
see-
And
Okay.
it's kind of odd to me why, the two end parcels have their property
Weird.
extending into
Yeah.
that sounds bizarre to me.
It was.
It's not like they need the square footage
Right.
to achieve, a minimum area.
So could actually be more land that they give up.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, why not just saw it off the way they did the 2
it's
middle
5
lots?
houses.
Yeah, but it's weird, those wings on the side.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me,
No.
why they did that,
What's a reason that they did that?
unless they want to charge more,
Maybe got a bigger lot. You can put a garden up there.
well, it's forested.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get beyond that field, it's all forest.
Oh, wow.
And then it's blank. There's no topo lines. There's, it's just like, and the rest, well, they're supposed to include all the detail and check for the presence of historic remnants, check with natural heritage. They're supposed to go through that entire process, not
Well.
just refer to the leftover parts. And
All right,
she
well,
cut some of it off too. It goes farther.
So, Lorraine, you are going to be present or participate in the planning board meeting on day after tomorrow?
On
Yep, day after tomorrow.
the day of tomorrow, yes.
Yep. The trust is going to be having their own meeting, so we're out of the loop on that one. I think they picked that date for the same reason.
I'm sure.
They don't want us there, do they, Cease?
It's a right-wing conspiracy. I knew it.
Left.
So,
And it's really just for the purposes of giving them some of the basics, things to watch for, things to ask
Okay.
for, not specifically to talk about this application because it hasn't come before them yet. But just, it was sort of a follow-up to the last thing that I did when I sent them all the history of the, was it 3 or 4 attempts were made at open space residential, just to explain that, how they failed. And make some suggestions.
was Whitney Park supposed to be an open space residential development?
No, that was a 41B.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
I take it back. That's right. Okay.
And while it wasn't an open space residential, there was this Holt Road project with Jeff Avancic. He was always
yeah.
promising to do something for us. It was,
Right.
it wasn't part of an OSRD, but it was the same conversation. It should have gone the same way.
Backed out of it.
And it fell through just as easily.
Yeah.
For the same reasons. So,
Well, as I look at the old Whitney Park 41B thing, there were certain promises made
yeah.
up
we
front
did.
about an easement for the rail trail, blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, that was
And
allowed to
conservation
linger
too.
and it never happened.
Yeah.
And now the property's been sold. So, it was a lost opportunity because nobody jumped on it.
Yep.
He
While,
also offered a sizable chunk of land to go for conservation, but it was all talk. It was-
yeah, and so, not wanting to have that happen again, who knows what the future holds? We need to make sure that whatever is stated in the permit that actually happens.
Yeah.
We don't let it slide by.
In that one developer's defense, though, I will say that he was the one that donated Cheshire Pond to the land trust.
Okay,
So, okay. I mean, it wasn't, I would have liked a little bigger chunk, but
no, granted,
he
but
did do that. So they're not, and with design, not with design with nature. What was the name of that group up on 119?
that was designed with nature.
That was what Dave said.
No. No, the one that did the link. I can't remember the names
Oh,
anymore.
northeast.
Yeah.
It was north something. Can't
Anyway,
remember. It was a different group.
it was mostly all wetland that they donated, but they did donate that first connection between the big Ashburnham State Forest and Mount Watatic. So
Okay,
we got a decent deal off of them, but
That was a strategic move on our part because we wanted to lock up the frontage on 119.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much that the land was worth very much, but we knew that if it was left open, that the town could come in or someone could come in and try to get to this big 50-acre piece that was on the side, working up towards Mount Watatic, which is developable. And we knew if they had that access, because there's a little triangle that cuts right into it, that has a lot of frontage on 119.
yeah,
So it
it
would have
does.
been great access for a much
Yeah.
more serious development.
Yeah.
And it was owner unknown at the time, this big 50-acre piece. No one knew who owned it. I don't know how that was ever resolved, if it was ever resolved. And what you
Well-
know is shortly after Doug Briggs came in,
Right,
they
I
saw
know.
that and they went
Yeah,
after it. The
Yeah, I
town,
know he
the
did.
town thought they
I
had
know.
found a big, look at this.
yeah.
And we said, no, it may be town on land, but you can't develop it.
Well, there's a sizable parcel just north of Lakeshore Road where the commission owns all that land, and there's that old road that goes down to the lake that gets flooded out every now and then. There's a sizable parcel just north of that is property unknown.
Yeah.
And I've got it someplace, but I mean, the fact is that you obviously can't bill anybody for it tax-wise because they don't know who owns it.
yep.
So, I mean, the question is, how do those things get resolved?
It costs quite a bit of money. They have to go to land court to
Okay.
actually take it. The town can take it, but they got to
Yeah.
find somebody that they can serve So they end up having to go to land court to do it, and it ends up costing money, so.
It takes
Yeah,
a
I mean,
couple of years.
Who do they take it from?
From owner unknown.
Well, who do the settlers take the entire continent from? Anyone
No,
who was there.
It's a sizable parcel, so, and it abuts all these other things that the commission owns.
Yep.
So it would be interesting to find out. Anyway, that's neither here nor there right now. Okay, so we will continue to discuss this in the future, and we'll see how the planning board process plays out. And our next meeting is the 25th. I don't know if there's anything on the agenda as yet, but if you have additional thoughts.
I'm encouraged that they asked us to comment. So the
Who?
planning board,
Yeah. Yeah.
They reached out and I'd like to help them. To work cooperatively with them to make this happen.
Yeah,
But just
no,
Make sure it's right this time, if we can.
well, again, just keep in mind that we, the Conservation Commissioner or any other municipal board, is not obligated
Right.
to comply with their request to accept the land.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm sorry, it's not, as Ann said, certainly not a destination site, and you deal with it yourself.
There was one year that the Concom someone just sent a deed to Concom. Here, take this. And it was the last day of the year, or they were trying to get it in under the tax year. And we had 1 or 2 days to decide.
Mm.
And we had no idea, and they didn't ask us. They just sent the deed. It was refused because there was just no way to figure out what it was. And, it was like, yeah, well, never mind. Because it probably was some slurry pit. And,
Could have been the South Peak.
no, it wasn't that. We knew where it was. It wasn't that.
Well, all I'm saying is that, no is still in the dictionary, and, there's no obligation for any of us to accept it. I mean, if it's going to complicate matters, make life more difficult, 4.5 acres of woodland is, that you can't get to from here is not the end of the world.
Marshall, I have a question that's not related to
Please.
any of this.
Yeah, go.
Up on Farron Road, there's a whole lot of land that's up for sale, and the guy put in a well like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And the well keeps running. Is there anything we can do about it,
What
about that?
keeps running?
The well.
Really?
It's that one
Yeah,
right next to the trust property. We walked
He's
it
got a
one
pipe
day.
leading off of that, and there are a lot of people up that way are asking me about it, and I said I would ask you.
Does it have, it obviously then has electricity hooked up to it?
No.
No, it actually, it's
It's
gravity.
run by, it has too much water, so it keeps on running. He put a pipe out of it, so it just keeps running and running and running, and the people around there are like,
You mean the water is coming out of the well
yes, yes.
because of high groundwater?
I'm thinking that, yeah.
It pretty much runs year round.
Yeah, it runs all the time.
And it runs downhill
Yes, it runs downhill.
as opposed to uphill.
Yeah, it's not running up to the trust land. No, it's running down the lake.
Does it go down into that cove?
Eventually, sure.
Eventually it will go into the cove, yes. And also down by the cove, they have cut a bunch of trees that are right near the water.
All right, I've spoken with the gentleman who owns it many times back when he was first buying the land. He was going to build a house and blah, blah,
Right,
blah.
right,
We walked it all, and
yeah,
it's like 185,000, something like that.
yes.
Yeah, I spoke with the realtor about that. What he's doing is he's selling that parcel off, and he's selling another, I think it's 15 acres.
Yes,
There's 2 parcels that he's selling off, and then he's hanging on to another one right on the lake where he plans on tearing down a camp or something and rebuilding a monster. See him again.
Right.
Oh, I'll have to look, but I knew about the one parcel, but I didn't know about the others.
Yep.
All right, well, I have to go up and take a look. I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, kind of like Deepwater Horizon, you know? I mean, it just keeps on bubbling up.
I hate to bring this before you, but I've had, when I've been out there doing the monitoring, I've had several people stop me and ask me about it because they're really concerned about the fact that some people in town are paying for water and then other people have wells, and then you have this well that just keeps running and running and running.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can do anything about that.
Well, if
Well,
they
I don't
didn't
know.
punch the hole in the ground, they wouldn't have it.
Well, I mean, they could seal it
Yeah, right.
or,
Of course,
that
that
would
would
have
take
to be
away from the
legal.
value of the land if somebody wants to develop it.
No,
Right.
oh, no, I know. I mean, if you just capped it and sealed
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and forced the water back into the,
Yeah.
into
But
the
that would
water
have to be
table.
The landowner, right?
But
That would be
Yeah.
the landowner? Yeah,
yeah,
and I doubt he's gonna do that.
I doubt it too. And I'm not sure what leverage we have or, you know, regulatory
Okay,
provision to,
Look it up.
you know, force them to do that.
that's kind of what I said to the people, so I will get back to them and let them
Yeah,
know.
if they, you know, I mean, it's unfortunate that he went through the trouble of drilling the whole thing and then, you know, basically abandoned it, but
Right,
Well, he's got all the plans. It's a permitted lot. I mean,
right,
he's got your approvals, he's got
yeah,
Board of Health, he's all set. So
well,
he's asking
except
quite a bit
ours
for
may
that
have,
chunk.
ours may have expired. I don't know.
but you may want to check the trees down by the lake.
I will, yeah. Although I imagine it's pretty mucky down there these days.
No, it's on the
Not
road,
right now.
it's on the road, and the road's plowed.
Right, frozen.
Oh, okay, all right,
Lake Haven.
okay.
It's Lake Haven, it's on Lake Haven.
Yeah, no, I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Okay, anything else, folks, before we,
Just a
Call
quick
it a night.
question, follow up on our last meeting. The South Peak project.
the what? Yes,
We're going to look into funding, help with funding a little bit with that.
I personally contributed.
I know you did.
Thank you.
I was talking, yes, thank you very much. I was talking about the commission.
And well, you were talking about $2,000, right?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Do you
I
still,
mean, I think the trust is up to 3, so.
You know,
do you still have a conservation fund?
Yeah.
Did you ever find that?
Yeah, he found it.
It's still intact?
Yeah, so, well, I hope so.
I didn't answer.
we couldn't take it out of the Wetlands Protection Act fund.
No.
No.
It'd have to come out of the Conservation Fund,
Which you still have, right?
God willing.
Last time you saw, yeah.
Yeah,
You never know.
I'd have to check and see. But I mean, yeah, there's, I don't know, 30,000, something like that in it. Yeah, you know, let's see how it plays out, but I think that, you know, before we commit to that, if it comes right down to it, we can probably do something.
Thank you.
So,
Wasn't there about 30,000 in it when we first found it?
And then we spent some.
Right,
When
but
we first found, we gave, I think it was, the commission gave 25 to the Mount Watatic itself.
so how did it get back up to 30,000?
Well, did a timber cut for one.
Oh, yeah.
as of 2018, which is the last update I had, it's $34,000.
And you should have 35 now with all the interest you've made.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, you know, I went back through all the town reports, remember, from 1967 to the present,
Yep.
and tried to find additions and deletions and deductions and contributions, et cetera, et cetera. And, I've chronologically identified everything that I could. We did have like 41 and change before we paid the Bush Hill Forester guys.
Yep.
So that brought it back down to
Oh, for the plan.
to where it is now.
$5,000, I think, something like that.
It was 7,000.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a question for you, Marshall, regarding the water district overlay.
Mhm.
And I got a call from Dave Perry, who's been asked to join the bylaw review committee,
Mm-hmm.
which is looking at eliminating that overlay district.
No.
No? Do I have that wrong?
Well, I've asked the planning board via their, what is it, DLTA grant,
Yeah.
whatever that stands for. And they retained,
Systems.
MRPC to assist them in that bylaw review.
Yep.
Which is not just, I don't know what it all entails, but part of it is the Wetland and Watershed Protection District, not the Water Supply
No.
Protection District. Okay. So I've asked them to consider deleting it. And I've explained why. I don't know why it was established back in the early 70s. But it doesn't matter why.
Well, it kind of does, because
No, because back then, the Conservation Commission in the town of Ashburnham was not kicked into gear until like 74. Because that's when we started to earn funds from the Wetlands Protection Act. It may have existed, but it didn't perform the duties that it now performs. And I mean, I can quote you from the various town annual reports, but right now it conflicts with the Wetlands Protection Act and what the Conservation Commission is allowed to do and not do. I mean, there are certain zoning limitations associated with the Watershed and Wetlands Protection District that preempt the Commission's ability to administer the Wetlands Protection Act. So you've got two conflicting things that shouldn't be in existence. And obviously the big brouhaha over, what was it, 32 Bluefield Road,
yeah.
Was all about that. And it shouldn't have happened because it should be the commission's responsibility, not the planning board's responsibility.
So you're talking about land that is jurisdictional.
Yeah.
For the Concom, but not for the planning board. And is
Well,
that-
right. The way it reads now, it's part of a development calculation. Back in 1970, when the initial map of this district was drawn under contract by someone to the planning board, they established elevations.
Mhm.
It means sea level at the datum, in the datum at the time, which of course is no longer the datum now being used. And so in the Bluefield Road area, it was like, I don't know, a couple feet of elevation off the edge of the Sunset Lake. And this is what, as Chris, and I don't know if you would remember it, Andrew, and maybe you would, I think, Cease, you were there. You know, when they're a butter's attorney and I debated, I use that term loosely, the validity of what I perceived to be the district boundaries and what they thought per the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission district boundaries, which again, were totally wrong and were just for graphic and illustrative purposes only. Which is why another reason I want this thing eliminated, because somewhere along the line, when Montechusett redrew the zoning map, they didn't adhere to the real map. Just put in this illustrative line and thought that this disclaimer caveat would be sufficient. Well, you know, it's not, and it just needs to go away. It's meaningless. I mean, the commission has jurisdiction over what you can do within all that area. And it shouldn't be a conflicting where the planning board can, or the commission can approve something, the planning board can deny it. That makes no sense.
Should they be redone as
No.
opposed to eliminating them?
No.
No? Not even using like.
Am
Army Corps
I
information?
definitive in that regard?
You sound like it.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Obviously, we don't.
Let me send you the what I submitted to the planning board. It's public information. I mean, and they've sent it over to the I forget her name. Anyway, at MRPC, and who's inclined, I think, per Roger, to agree that it needs to go.
Yeah, send that off, please.
I will.
And doing so does not make more resource areas vulnerable?
No. No, they're totally up to the
Concord.
commission's discretion.
Now, in the past, my understanding is that if a landowner has a piece of property and he wants to develop it, you can't stop him anyway. You can condition the hell out of it.
Not if they meet the provisional, you know, performance standards, no.
I think he's referring to regulatory taking.
Yeah.
Meaning that,
Then restate the question.
well, I'm not sure, but what I think Gary is asking is, and I wondered this too in the past, and my understanding was that, except in very rare occasions, you cannot prevent someone from developing their property because unless they have created their own hardship, it
Developer.
constitutes a regulatory taking, and the town would have to compensate the owner for that taking. They designate it as unbuildable. There has to be a value assessed to it, and that person needs to be, and that owner needs to be compensated. That was my understanding of the law.
There are several lots like that. What they can do is apply for an abatement. Just what I said.
And is the question coming up because if we somehow had this wetland and watershed protection district, there wouldn't be considered a taking? Is that, or is there a connection between these?
Well, if it puts it back on the planning board and the building inspector.
But if they denied it, wouldn't it still be a taking? From by the same
Yeah,
criteria, somebody's value has gone
You-
down.
well, First of all,
Donna.
you need to look at the map
Hmm.
that associated with this district. It's a
Oh.
little thin line around the borders of all the lakes. It's a wider line, again, all established in mean sea level elevations around certain wetlands. It also is associated, it's 25 feet from the borders of all streams in the town, et cetera, et cetera. No one's ever paid attention to it. Until one abutter decided that, this was the way to forestall the development at 32 Bluefield Road. But I'm firmly believe that the argument that I made that night, 2 years ago, something like that, is valid. I mean, that up through 70-something, the 80-something, and the early 90-something zoning bylaw, there's been no change in the verbiage of the district. And there's been nothing in the annual town meeting subsequent to that that's changed the map. So the map may be 50 years old, but it's still valid.
Has the floodplain map been released?
No, not the new ones.
Hmm?
No. No, I don't know what's happening with that. I mean, that's to me a lost cause. I mean, we're still relying on the 84 FEMA maps. So let me send you the stuff because I think once you see it.
I told him that I would, I was somewhat aware of it, and he being Dave, doesn't understand why you would want to remove it.
Who doesn't?
Dave Perry?
Oh, Dave. Well,
It's kind of surprising to me.
Well, but he does septic systems, and so it didn't make sense to him that you would want to remove it, or that the committee would want to remove it. And he just wanted to get some history on it, who developed it, why, what their criteria was for doing it.
But, there's, unfortunately, I mean, there's a reference in, I think it's the 73 annual report, maybe 72, that, within the context of a Warren article, it says something to the effect that, a description of this district and blah, blah, blah was distributed to everybody in town. And can you find that document? No.
Yeah.
It's probably locked in a safe in town hall where, or in the library upstairs, or gone. And, Michelle is not inclined to allow me to rummage through, 50-year-old municipal documents in the hopes of finding this one. I'll send you the verbiage from that too. I mean,
No, yeah. I mean, I'm just looking for background at this point and want to understand.
Yeah, it's and so that's why I say I can't tell you what the rationale was at the time, because I can't find any documents that says why.
You mind if we share this with Dave?
No, go ahead.
It really doesn't matter.
No, I mean, I'll send it to you. You can look at it and then you can add your commentary to it if you so desired. But, I don't want to have to go through what we went through before. I mean, put the applicant through hell. May she rest in peace.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, this has been fun.
I was glad you invited. Oh, you didn't? No, okay.
Big crash. Crashers.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn, it being what?
7:40.
Yeah,
7:40 is
7:40.
right. Okay,
Marshall, one quick thing.
yes,
Just a friendly reminder about the beaver dam.
beavers, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was-
Okay.
Is the backwater really up to the back of the dam?
It's getting there. It's probably got another couple 100 feet before it really starts backing up on the back of the dam. But it's being released currently. Like on one side of the dam, the water's high enough that it's continuing to run over. I haven't seen where beavers have re-dammed it up, so the beavers may not be active. Yeah, they got taken on the road or something, or moved on. I don't know, but
You should be so lucky.
yeah, right. It wouldn't be the first one, that's for sure. But yeah, I haven't seen it dammed up lately, so the water is flowing over the top.
Where is this?
This is the below Lake Winnipeg.
Okay.
It's just off of Route 12 or 101.
101,
At,
yeah.
at the split of Stoll Road.
Stoll Road, yeah. Does the Lake Winnipesaukee Association, such as it is, have funds?
We have they have a little bit of funds.
Didn't you get an endowment with that dam?
We did. Yep. Which I believe is still, we haven't taken full owner. Well, I can't say that. Everything, as far as I know, has been signed and everything's been agreed upon. It's the repairs that we're waiting to be done. So for us to take full ownership and all that money transferred back and forth, the condition of the dam has to be brought from, I think, what is okay status to good condition.
Are you trying to purchase a dam?
Yeah,
Yes.
the association is.
Why?
Basically
Somebody
to
has
control
to.
our own destiny.
Yes, exactly. What?
Basically the argument is to control our own destiny because the paper company that owns it has done absolutely nothing with it since they took ownership of it 20 some years ago. So
And are they selling it to you for like $1?
well, that's what they initially did. They went to all the neighbors and the camp and everything. It was like, hey, we'll give it to you for $1, and nobody took them up on it. But now that they're sweetened the deal where they'll do the repairs, they'll give the association a good chunk of money to put in like an escrow account, I think it is, to pay for the upkeep of it. But the fear being that, you know, if the dam were to let go, whatever, everyone would lose the lake and that'd be the end of it. So the idea is to control the dam so that we can actually maintain it and maintain the lake.
How much trouble do you have with beavers there?
It comes and goes. We had a couple years ago, we had beavers taking down large, probably 6-8 inch trees at the one end of the lake. We've got a fairly good sized beaver lodge built into the side of our island down here at the lake. But they kind of come and go. So we'll have them for a couple years. Usually you'll see one or two on the side of the road that got hit. So activity certainly slows down, disappears for a while. I'd say lately I probably haven't seen much new activity, at least up in the lake itself.
Have you had any discussions about installing beaver or flow devices? Not beaver, but flow
Well,
devices.
that's why I asked about whether the
Yeah.
Lake Association had any funds.
Or make the present owners do that as part of the deal.
That's the other thing. I mean,
Yeah.
And I understand that Matt Christensen, he's the chairperson of the
Correct.
association.
Yep.
And he is, amenable to the association accepting ownership of the dam? Wow.
As far as I'm aware.
The Concoms installed one at the end of Holt Road many years ago.
Yep, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and the town was supposed to maintain it, whether or not they did or not, I
They
don't
didn't,
know.
they tore it
They
out.
probably just tore it out.
He tore it out.
Yeah, they tore it
We
out,
helped them
exactly.
install it.
Gone.
I never saw it, but that got shredded many times over.
Oh yeah, there's still a large tree that went through that whole culvert and everything. That's still laid up in the sandbank on the other side.
Yeah, well, the town did that to appease Richie Wright. My assumption.
Yeah. I mean,
Because-
I'm more than willing, unless there's, because I know at least what our plan is, because we have to go and we have to clear all the trees on the back of the dam
Yeah,
as preventative maintenance. During the same time, I don't see why. Well, I mean, I have experience doing it, but putting in some kind of like drain pipe through the beaver dam,
Through the
and then
dam.
just
Exactly.
It's not a big deal. It's not that costly.
There's
No,
plenty of
and I-
diagrams online.
oh yeah, I've done them in at least 3 beaver dams as with an internship. So
Oh, good.
yeah, had a
Do
lot
it,
of fun doing that.
well, I think the best thing you do is just keep an eye on if the water is flowing out one end, then and not accumulating,
Yeah,
then
if it gets right up to the back of the dam, we're in trouble.
agreed. But you know, you don't know it yet, so I think Gary's point is well taken. That you know, it's their dam. You know, they need to be in a position to protect it.
Yeah, Yeah.
Not your responsibility.
not yet.
And don't take it until they do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah,
folks.
Other than that, we a week ago, just as a short, since you sent the email with the hawk, we last Monday I came up to camp and we had 2 bald eagles in that big dead pine tree.
Yeah.
On the lake. Yeah, 2 of them were just sitting there. They've sat there for the last couple days.
Nice.
They've
Yep.
been flying over my house a lot.
Have they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found a deer got taken out on the lake,
On the lake?
so they were hanging around for that.
Got
Wow.
killed on the lake, or it fell through, or?
My guess it got chased out onto the lake, and they just don't really stand a chance once they're on the ice. So, I put a game camera up on the carcass the first night, and I had 2 very large coyotes
Yeah.
show up, and then a red fox. So,
Yeah.
Circle of life.
Yeah, we grow big coyotes out here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the first look at it was like, that's way too big. What is that?
Oh, they're big leggy things.
Yep. Beautiful. I'll send you a couple of pictures or maybe a video of it.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you guys are interested.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay. Definitely.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, then. Let's see what's on the agenda for the 25th. If there's nothing, then, you know, unless you have some desire to meet, then we won't. But assuming something will pop up, we'll see you all on the 25th.
25th. All right.
All
Night.
right.
Sounds good.
So
Thank you
Stay
very much.
safe.
now it's 7:50. So
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. Marshall Dennis, aye.
Second, aye.
Cody, aye.
Andrew Anderson, aye.
Procedures being what they are.
Sounds good.
All right, folks.
Ken.
Night.
Night.
Appreciate it
Night.
as always.
Be safe, everyone. Stay healthy and avoid the
hopping- You
You
insurrection.
too.
Okay.